Hello, I'm Father FrLouScurti, and I welcome you to Friends of the Word, the weekday Word Q&A. Recently, I received an email at FrLouScurti@hotmail.com, for your interest, from Margaret. And Margaret said, I'm not a Catholic, but I do know Catholics worship relics. Why? Okay, so let me answer that question for Margaret. And normally I would send a person a gift when they send the questions in by email or any other way, and I will send her a gift. It's going to be a pair of rosaries, and I'll give her instructions how to use the rosaries for her information. The fact that she was interested in relics, she might be interested in other parts of our practicing the Catholic faith. In the book of the Acts of the Apostles, we read Acts 19, when face cloths and aprons that touched Paul's skin were applied to the sick, their disease left them, and the evil spirits came out of them. That's probably the first reference to a relic in our history as Catholics. Of course, the greatest relics would have been the cloth of Jesus, the Veronica's veil, the shroud, anything associated with Jesus. Now, Helen, Saint Helen, mother of Constantine, the emperor, in the 4th century, had a great devotion to Jesus and the Holy Land, went to the Holy Land from Rome, and her goal was to resurrect, to bring up, find relics associated with the cross of Jesus. Now, in Rome, there is a church that was built for the wood of the cross of Jesus. It's called the Church of Jerusalem. The Church of Jerusalem, right across from St. John Lateran Church. And the relic of the cross is ensconced in a beautiful box at the head of the church, and stairs going up it. The stairs are also relics because Jesus walked on those stairs in Pontius Pilate's palace. Now, authentically, absolutely, historically documented? No. This is the belief that these relics, these items, were brought from the Holy Land, and Helena at that time believed that the cross, as well as the steps and other things that she brought back, were relics of Jesus. So they're housed in the Church of Jerusalem in Rome. Are we obligated to believe in a relic, which is an item that is part of the body or touched the body, or a cloth that touched the body of a saint, a holy person? Obligated to believe in them? Not necessarily. It's a custom, it's a great custom, it's a great appreciation, and you keep relics in your house. Relatives, pictures, items from grandma, special dishes that you don't touch because they were, so-and-so relative dishes. Why? Because they put us in mind with the person they represent, and they keep the memory warm and alive. It's not superstition, it's just a custom. Now, the way it is said that Helen proved that the wood that they found was related to Jesus and was the cross of Jesus is as they were carrying it, they discovered it, they were carrying it, and a funeral pyre was going by, and the person on the funeral pyre resurrected, woke up, when the shadow of the cross went over his body. That's custom, and that's tradition. St. Helena, the mother of Constantine. Okay, so let's talk about the relics that I have here. Now, the relics I have were mostly gifts. As a matter of fact, they were all gifts from various people. This particular section of relics comes from a pastor, my first pastor, who was Monsignor Haig, very, very good person, and he was the pastor at St. Margaret's Church in Morristown, New Jersey, where I was a deacon for a few months and then became a priest and ordained at that church. So let's look at these relics, and they were important to Chris. This one is new. This is relatively new, and this is how a relic is described. Here is a piece of cloth that has been touched to the relics of St. Padre Pio. So that's what this is, and I put it here, just hung it on a piece of cloth and a rope that reminds me of the sash that Padre Pio wore as a Franciscan. Okay, so this little piece of white item here is a piece of cloth that was touched to his relics, to his body, or even to his coffin. So again, why have it? It puts us in mind of the saint. It puts us in mind and keeps us united, as well as this picture does, united with the intention we pray for. We always pray to God. We don't pray to the saint. We don't pray to the relic. We pray to God. These people, whose relics we have, became saints because of their devotion to Jesus Christ. That's our goal, devotion to Jesus Christ. So let's look at the top, and I'm going to just show you them as I read from my notes who they are. There's one relic of St. Dionysius of Corinth. Now, this is interesting because Dionysius died in 170. So, is it authentic? Well, the early martyrs of the church were buried in known Christian tombs in the catacombs, if they were in Rome and other places throughout the empire. And it's not unusual that they were marked, the graves are marked, just as a memory as we mark our cemeteries today. So this is a relic of St. Dionysius. He was the Bishop of Corinth in Greece, and he was famous for his letters which commemorate the martyrdom of Saints Peter and Paul. And his feast day is April 8th. And it's interesting, they commemorate the martyrdom of two very, very, very important saints, the pillars of the early church, Peter and Paul. Their relics are entombed in Rome as well. And supposedly the body of Peter is buried under St. Peter's Basilica. Now, I say supposedly because many years later, discovery was made and his name was written on the side of a coffin that was there in stone. So the whole area of the Vatican was a cemetery at one point. So it's not unusual that Peter and other followers of the early church would have been buried there. Later on, Constantine built his first church over that, St. Peter's, and then many years later, the second, and the church that you know, built during the Renaissance, was constructed, the great Basilica of St. Peter. St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, and we have here St. Francis Xavier Cabrini's relic, and she was a popular saint in my family. Not only was she, and her relic is one of these tiny ones here in this reliquary. Oh, and I said reliquary like as if I should explain it. Reliquary is something that holds a relic, pure and simple. It could be ornate, it could be simple as this. St. Francis Cabrini, first Italian-American saint. She was naturalized as an American citizen. She died in 1917, so not that long ago, in reference to the antiquities of saints. She was born in 1850. She died in 1917. Her feast is December 22nd. She founded schools, hospitals, orphanages throughout the United States and close to here, Newark, New Jersey, and many places in Chicago as well. She's the patroness of immigrants, very important. Not only Italian immigrants. So we're going through this whole process of immigration, people and the suffering people of Syria coming here to our country and throughout Europe. St. Francis Xavier Cabrini is their patroness. St. Catherine Labouré. St. Catherine Labouré died in 1878. Our Lady appeared to her several times, and her feast day is November 25th. And she is very instrumental with the miraculous medal devotion. St. Dominic Savio. St. Dominic was a young man, a little kid. He died in 1857. He's the patron of young people. He was great devotion to God and to the Eucharist. His feast day is March 9th. Now, what do we have from these saints? Sometimes we have a piece of cloth. that touched them. In case of Dominic Savio, it was a tiny, tiny, tiny relic of a bone. With other saints, we have other items. With Saint Lucy Filippini, we have a cloth that touched her body. And not only that, with Saint Lucy Filippini, we have a friend of hers who was a sponsor, Bishop Cardinal Barbarigo. He died in 1707. St. Lucy died in 1732. Foundress of the Maestra P. Filippini, which is the Filippini teaching order, located here in the United States in Morristown, New Jersey, locally. It's one of the mother houses. So relics remind us of the saints, and the other ones I have are St. John Newman, very, very popular American saint. St. Anne. Now that's a little iffy because, again, the tradition is, we even know in the Holy Land where Joachim and Anne's home was. So something from that area has been designated historically associated with Anne and Joachim for centuries. Of course, Anne was the mother of Jesus, the grandmother of Jesus. So something came from there, and we have a relic of St. Anne. We have a piece of cloth that touched Pope Pius XII. Now, he's not a saint, but again, we respect historical figures, significant historical figures in our faith, and Pius XII was a wonderful pope. A lot of controversy around his life because he was involved with rescuing and sheltering many Jews during Nazi occupation and persecution of the Jews during the Holocaust. And some people say he could have done more. Some people say you don't know how much he did. And actually, I'm on that side. He did a great deal, opened up convents and monasteries to shelter Jews during the Holocaust period. So these are the relics we have: Dominic Savio, Catherine Bernardine of Siena, Dionysius of Corinth. We have Xavier Cabrini, Catherine Labouré, Dionysius, Dominic, Bernardine, again, John Newman, St. Anne, St. Lucy, and the Cardinal. These are symbols of faith. They're not, how would I say, they're not dogma. They're symbols of faith and sacramentals, in a sense, things, items that put us in mind of the presence of God in our lives. I hope you enjoyed this brief summary of relics. If you have any questions, contact me at FrLouScurti@hotmail.com. God bless you, and pass this on to your family and friends. And if you come across any relics, write to me. Let me know what they are. God bless you.